Hello everyone, Aric Hall with the Blaze of Glory. Well, I'm doing this report live from the shores of the Madison River. Today we're going to take a quick run from the headwaters of the Madison River, or actually just above it, out to the Yellowstone Park boundary out at Baker's Hole Campground. Let's start at the downstream end, which is the north end of the Lower Geyser Basin. This is Ojo Caliente. That is boiling hot water. It's not a geyser bubbling with air, it's boiling water. You know, here, where the water pours over into the Firehole River, this is where Forrest Fenn supposedly took his infamous free baths, where hot water met cold water, making warm water. One of the theories about where warm waters halt is just north of here, where there are no more thermal features. As we head north past Nez Perce Creek, we go through what is actually called the Firehole River Canyon. It is a canyon down. It's a fairly short canyon, both in length and in height. It's not very significant, but there is a small side road you can take along the Firehole Canyon, and there is a popular bathing spot there. The next thing we're going to look at is actually this camera is positioned along one of the thermal features along the Gibbon River, which also joins the Firehole River to make the headwaters of the Madison River. If you look at that mountain in front of you, the Firehole is coming in from the top left, just in front of that rock face. And when it gets down to the right edge of that mountain, that's where the Firehole and Gibbon join together, making the headwaters of the Madison. All right, so here it is, Madison Junction, the place where warm waters halt. The Firehole River is the one coming in from that short, squatty canyon, coming in from the top left of the picture. The Gibbon River is coming in from the lower left. And at that junction, headed right or west, is the Madison River. I think I have positioned these photographs from Madison Junction heading west toward West Yellowstone, but I'm not sure they're all in proper order. It is very difficult to take photographs or do anything else along this stretch of river because the highway runs right beside it, and it's one of the two busiest roads in the park. The tourists are always in the way. The other thing is the fishermen. Anywhere along the Madison River from one end to the other, there's always multiple fishermen within sight. How could Forrest Fenn have ever had all these special secret fishing places? Whether it's where the treasure chest is or not. I mean, we know he fished around 7 Mile Bridge and 9 Mile Hole and the place called the Water Hole. There's no place where you can be left alone out there, even to fish. The water of the Madison is very clear. I mean, this is a mountain river. It's not like the rivers we have down south where they're all full of mud, sand, and dirty bacteria. I'm not sure if you can tell from this photograph or not, but just inside the water is the green grasses that have been basically bent over by the water current. This is like some of the places where Forrest has mentioned, and I think shown a couple of photographs of, where he liked to fish, where there's grass in the river bank. You know, Forrest mentions one of his fishing places is not there. I forget the exact words. He said it's moved or changed. You can tell from some of the satellite images of the river, there are a few places where the river has made those little eddies and swirls, where the pattern has changed, you know, just like along the Mississippi. One of those is where these photographs are taken, which is immediately to the southeast of 7 Mile Bridge. You can see a lot more of these just north of the airport where the Madison River goes into Lake Hebgen. But my thought is, because this is not a sedimentary river, it's clear it takes many years for the river to change course, even by just 20 or 30 feet. I have a feeling that this river here, the only place that it might have changed course in Forrest's lifetime are the two places that I just mentioned. As you proceed west toward the West Park boundary, you go through this little narrow section where the two mountains on the north and south side of the river come close together, making what is essentially a small canyon. It's not a very spectacular canyon, As we move past the canyon, we head up to the bend in the river and the area where Forrest Fenn walked that 6 or 10 mile stretch in his Too Far to Walk tale. I'm just a couple of miles downstream from what is sometimes called the canyon that's on the west side of Yellowstone, that's between Madison Junction and West Yellowstone. Isn't it amazing just how fast the weather changes here? Of course, it could be that I went out there on separate days. Yes, I went back to take some pictures along the little side road that along the Madison River in Forrest's put-in spot as he began his journey down the Madison River towards Baker's Hole. One of the things about the Madison River in western Yellowstone all the way out to Lake Hebgen that I really don't like is there are no creeks. You know, how can we say there'll be no paddle up your creek? There's no creeks out here. Well, that's not entirely true. There are a couple of dry washes on the north side of the river, on the north side of the highway, and during a downpour, I'm sure there's a creek. There are a couple of really small creeks. It's more like an icky swamp of a creek that come in from those mountains, the mountain ridge along the south side of the river, but you'd have to cross the river to get to those. And they're not significant. It's more like a tinkling creek. It's scenic. You can walk down the river, probably in the river, for 6 to 10 miles. The water is nice and clear. From this point, the river separates from the highway, headed northwest, eventually going past the little side road that goes out to the old Barnes Hole, and there's a couple of fishing areas there where people go to park and they walk up and down the river to fish, and then of course further down to Baker's Hole. Now, I'm assuming the park does not allow watercraft out here because I've never seen one, but this would be a nice time to have a raft and be able to go downstream to see exactly what Forrest saw, because most of this river is not easily accessible unless you want to walk 6 miles and go too far to walk. So is this supposed to be where the old barns were? The side road that goes out to the old Barnes Hole site and further on up to the Madison River is partially paved and partially gravelly dirty. Here I am at the end of Barnes Hole Road. There's 2 or 3 fishermen out here today. The water is still flowing pretty good out here to be, late August. But I'm always amazed at mountain rivers and streams, at how crystal clear they are. It makes me jealous. Well, now I'm at Baker's Hole, and on the banks of the Madison River again. This was the end of Forrest Fenn's journey, and what he says is now too far to walk. This is all flat country. There's not really any creek between that canyon of the Madison River that's in Yellowstone to Baker's Hole. I just don't see anything significant about this area. Now, perhaps if you believe the home of Brown is that Barnes Hole and the side of the old barns, if that's your home of Brown, then sure, there's things downriver from here. You can go by Hebgen and Earthquake Lake and out into the flats. There's plenty of creeks to choose from. Anyway, I came back out here. I stayed at this campground last year, and the mosquitoes were awful. Today it's nice and cool. There's not too many bugs. I am interested in places downstream from here, but even those those are the places I was telling you that they don't fit all of the clues, or they don't fit that New Mexico True Stories tourism commercial. I'm still looking for the sweet spot that fits all of the clues and hints we've been given, and I haven't found one. Maybe Forrest Fenn was a great art dealer, but I'm not so sure about his expertise at poetry and writing poems. Well, that wraps up another trip. Remember to click, like, share, subscribe, comment, and donate.